Hi, welcome back. In this session, we are going to discuss about functions in Python. So in a simple word, we can say functions is nothing but it allows us to reuse the bunch of code, a certain amount of code again and again by simply writing a single line of code. So we can see with a simple example. Suppose I have a few code or 6 line of code here and I'm running this command. So it is actually printing certain strings. So to make it simple, I'm just using only the string and the static code. So suppose I want to reuse it in many places. For example, suppose I again write this code, copy and paste it here. And again, then after this code, I have certain amount of codes here. Then again, I want to call that code again, that whole bunch of print. Again, certain amount of codes here. Then again, I want to call that bunch of code. So it is nothing problem in this. So if you run this code, I'll get everything got printed. The first time it got printed here, everything. Then after a certain amount of code here, then the second bunch of thing will print it here. And the third, then after a certain thing, the third bunch of things printed here. So uh, we can reuse it, but this will make the code looks too long and it makes the programming more complex and it takes more memory. So instead of that, we can simplify it. So how to simplify it? So we can use function to simplify this whole bunch of code. For example, the how to start the function. So function, the command is def. Then we will give a name for the function. So I'm printing command. So printing printing something for printing. I give a name printing, then open and close the parenthesis, then a colon. When we write a colon, then when we come down, it will come to the indentation position. That means whatever inside the function should be in this line, not in the inline with the D. So in a tab, we will use a tab, and whatever the code we need to use again and again, that is the whole thing of this, the print, all the print comments, I copied and sorry copied and paste it here. So everything should be in line with that. So damn this one, everything should be in line. So everything is within the function. Then we can run this code again, run this. So nothing is came out now. No output is there, nothing printed out, even though when I'm running this. And the shortkey is shift enter in Jupyter Notebook. And the same commands or same codes you can run in Python Notebook also. So or any other Visual Studio Code or Pycharm as well. But here for convenient, I'm using Jupyter Notebook. So back to the point. So when we are running, nothing is showing here. Now how to execute this? So to execute this, I need to call this function. So to call the function, we need to copy all these things except the start and the end. That means the starting is the word def and the ending is this colon. So except that, whatever in the middle, copy that and paste it here. Then if I'm running this code, this only the printing this comma this code, everything within the function print will get printed here. Now we will see how we can simplify this whole bunch of code, this three, the whole bunch of code with 22 lines with a function. So the first one is I'm again copying that, this one, the function is this one. So copy that, paste it here, and again a bunch of codes here, certain code, some codes here. Then again, I'm calling the function down. Again, certain codes here, something I executed, then again printed here. Now, if I'm running this code, we can see it will give the same result which I had given for this one. That means 3 times we are calling all this function. Instead of all this long codes or 22 lines of codes, we can simply use this much. But only thing, we need to define that in a function earlier. Everything should be goes inside this. Then whenever we need, we can call it here. So this is the main use of a function. Now let's we see more detail into functions. So the next is, suppose in this same function I'm just taking here from here. So using here only, not everything I'm using, only this much. The one line only I want to print. So I'm printing, entering this and calling this function printing, calling. So it got printed, result is result of analysis. Now we can see this is a static code. That means this comment is a static line of code. So we cannot change this with programmatically with a variable or anything. So if I want to change, depends on the values of certain variables. So suppose I have a variable here x. So I'm just changing the value of x is is now I am putting a variable here x. So this I run this code, but for this x, how we will get the value of x? So that is actually we can, when we are calling the function, we can pass that variable. That is called arguments. So suppose I want to give a value 10 here. So in the function within the bracket, I will give the value 10. Then I can call this function. But when we are calling this function, what will happen? It will pass this 10 to here, but not directly to here. It should pass through this line of code. That means the print, the definition, this line of code. But in this line of code, where it will pass. So it is like somebody is sending a post and somebody should be there on the other end to receive it. Like that. When we are for calling this function printing 10, it should come here. So some variable should be here to receive it in the definition printing. So here we can say I'll put a variable x here. So that means when we are calling here, it will go and store in this x. And when we are using this function, that x will pass to here in this x. So I'm running this function again. So it is again modified. Then I'm calling. Now what it is printing, the value of x is 10. Suppose I want to print a different value for x. So I'm using the same function, the same function, and I'm instead of 10, I'm giving a different value. Suppose I'm giving 789. Now I'm calling this. So it will now printed the value of x is 789. That means this 789 will pass to this variable x and it's printed here. Suppose I want to, instead of 789, I want to use a string. So print a string. So I call the function again. Then instead of x, what I will pass? A test string. If I'm printing this or calling the function now, what will happen? This test strings, the string value will go and store in x, and x will be passed inside the function that will be printed here. So that is how we will pass the argument. Suppose I want, in the next example, I want to print two variables. So I write the function again. Instead of printing, I am using printing two, a new function, and I want to print two functions here. Print the value of x is this, and there is a value of y is y. Now I need two variables. So whenever we are calling the function, we need to run this because there is an error come. Oh, sorry, this print should be here. Indentation, I believe. So yeah, print is run. So now we need to call this function printing, but we need to pass two variables, x and y. So what we'll give, what we'll do, we will give the value of x is maybe 10, and I can give a value of y by 589. Two values I passed. So as I said, it is like when we are sending something, we need exactly same there to receive it. So when we are passing two here, we should need two variables here also. So uh, instead of x, we need x and y here. That means this 10 will be go and stored in x, and 589 will get stored in y. Then it will pass here. So I'm running this line of code and again running this. So we can say the value of x is 10 and value of y is 589. Again, the same I can call with a different value. String. So instead of first string x, for x I'm passing string x, and y I'm passing a float number 589.50. Now if I'm calling this function, it will give the value of x is string x. That means the string x will go and store in x and it's passed here, and the value of this 589 will go and stored in y and passed here. So this method is called a positional argument. That means we can, depends on the position. If we are giving what is in the first position here in the function, the first argument will go and stored in that first variable here, and the second argument will go and stored in the second variable here. That is the positional argument when we are the method of passing the argument, one of the method of passing the argument. Second, when we are creating a variables here in the function and the arguments we are passing should be equal. For example, instead of this 2, I am passing 3 variables here. So I am again calling the function, this same function definition here, and I'm in first I will give 10, then 25, then I'm passing a third variable 36. Now what will happen if you are running this? It will give an error. What it is taking, what it is telling, printing to this function takes two positional argument. That means it will take only two positional argument. That is the space. The space is only for 2, but 3 were given. That means, but we are passing 3. So when we are passing 3, what it will happen? The 10 will stored in X here, and the 25 will stored in Y, and the 36, there is nothing there to store. So it will give an error. So we should not be. So there is two method. If you want, we can delete it, make it 2, or we can give one more space there, one more variable there, X, Y, and Z. So the 36 will get stored in Z. That is a position argument. Now the next is there another method of that. I'm just copying that again, paste it here. Another is the keyword argument. That means when we are calling this function, we can give, instead of position, we can give the keyword. If suppose x equal to 10 and y equals to 25, we can give the keyword, and it will similarly, it will go and store there. X will go and store, this value will go and store in X, this will go and store in Y, then come back inside the function and print this command. But one more advantage of the keyword argument is if you have n number of a lot of arguments we need to pass, then we don't need to worry about the order of the argument. For example, instead of that, if I'm giving a different order, instead of X, I am keeping Y. Y equal to Y equal to 25 and sorry, Y equal to 25 and X equals 30. Then I'm running here. Still this 30, even though we are given in the second position, it will go and store in X, and Y will be stored in Y. The first one will store in Y. That is a benefit of or advantage of using the positional argument. And the next is there. I'm just creating a function to add two numbers. Simple example. So definition some number and created a function to add two numbers. So I need two variables there to receive the two values, x and y, then comma, then print, oh sorry, z equals x plus y. Now I just made z here. Then I am run this command. Then I'm calling this some number, the function some number. So instead of x and y, I'm using 25 and 20. Then I'm calling this. So I got, but what inside this function is doing, it is just adding this x and y into z. Then now I will check the value of z. Print z. What it is showing? It is showing an error. Z is not defined. That means it doesn't know what is the value of z. But actually we created the z here inside the function, but we can't access that outside function. That means it is like in a closed cabin. The function is a closed glass cabin. So something we created, z is actually we created inside the function, but when we are trying to get z or the value, find the value of z or print it out, it's not showing because it's telling it doesn't know where the z is, because it is actually a local variable. That is called a local variable which is inside the function. So how to get that z or the value of z outside? Here comes the function return. That means when anything we created inside the function, any new variable, we should return it. return. Return z. That means this function will send z outside. So I'm again running this code and again calling this one sum of x and y, that means 10 and 25. But when it is returning, as we told earlier, when we are sending an argument, when we are passing an argument from here, there should be someone to receive it in this definition or the function side. That means x and y. Similarly, when the function is sending something back, there should be some variable to receive it also. That is, we will create in the start. That means z equals function. So whatever returning, it will come and store in this side. So when I'm running this command now, run this command. Now I'm printing print z. So that will give an output 35. That means that z can be now accessed from outside. This is the returning function in the function, return in function. That means anything we calculated inside any local variable we created inside the function cannot be accessed outside. So we need to use the return function to access that or bring that values outside or the variables outside the function and use it for further coding purposes. So this is a basic concept of functions in Python. So there are other functions there are more advanced functions or more complex functions complex things we use in functions, but this is just to understand. Here we are explaining so that the people will understand the basic concept of functions and basic idea behind the function. So the next we will be discussing about class in Python.